Hey there, and welcome. So, whether you just wrapped up the recent SSC MTS exam or you're getting your game plan ready for the next one, you are in the perfect place. We're not just going to review the February 9th paper, we're going to decode it to build a seriously powerful study blueprint. Let's jump right in. The smartest way to prep isn't just about memorizing what they asked, but digging into why they asked it. What do these questions tell us about what the examiners are thinking? That's the code we're here to crack together. Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we're going to do a little time traveling with some key moments from history. Then we'll see science in action with a few pretty clever practical questions. After that, we'll take a quick tour through India's diverse culture and GK. And finally, and this is the most important part, we'll pull all these clues together into your own personal exam blueprint to really focus your studies. All right, let's kick things off with history. Now, try to think of these questions less as random trivia and more like clues. They're basically telling us exactly which chapters of the past the examiners think are a really big deal. Okay, here's our first clue, and it's a classic from medieval India. Where is the tomb of Sher Shah Suri located? Take a second to think about it. The answer is right in the heart of his home turf.
The answer is Sasaram in Bihar, and right away, here's our first major takeaway. The exam consistently zeroes in on the link between key rulers and the stuff they built. So don't just learn the names, learn about the landmarks they left behind.
All right, let's jump forward in time a bit. This question is about one of the most pivotal battles in all of Indian history, one that completely changed the course of the subcontinent forever. That was, of course, Robert Clive. And the lesson here is crystal clear. The examiners expect you to know the turning points of modern Indian history, especially the rise of the British East India Company. These aren't just dates. These are the events that literally shaped modern India. Now for our last history question, we're going way back to ancient times. This one really tests your knowledge of regional powers and their major accomplishments. The answer is Pulakeshin II of the Chalukya dynasty. Now this is a fantastic clue. It proves that your history prep can't just be about the Gangetic Plains. The powers of the Deccan and the South are just as crucial on this exam. Okay, let's switch gears and move on to our next section. We're looking at science now. What's really interesting here is how the exam tests these fundamental principles, but often hides them in everyday scenarios. Let's do a quick dive into basic chemistry. Now, this looks simple, but it's the kind of foundational knowledge you absolutely have to have on instant recall. In a water molecule, H2O, what's the ratio of hydrogen to oxygen atoms? The answer is 2 to 1. 2 hydrogen atoms for every single oxygen atom. This is a clear signal that you need to be really comfortable with the basic building blocks of chemistry and their formulas. I love this question. It's like a practical puzzle that tests a core concept in physics. Why does the water protect the paper? Think about it. Where does all that heat energy actually go? So here's the physics behind the magic. The heat from the flame is just soaked up super quickly by the water inside the cup. And that process keeps the paper from ever reaching the temperature where it would burst into flames. It's a perfect real-world example of heat transfer and a huge sign that the exam tests concepts, not just random facts. From kitchen physics to outer space, this question tests your general scientific awareness and your knowledge of major international science projects. It orbits at an average altitude of about 400 kilometers. This question reminds us that general science isn't just about principles. It's also about being aware of major scientific landmarks and figures, both on Earth and way up above it. All right, on to our third section, culture and general knowledge. This is often the most challenging part because it's so incredibly wide-ranging, covering everything from dance forms to economics. Here's a great example of a classic arts and culture question. These often focus on regional folk traditions that are totally unique to a particular state. And the answer is Himachal Pradesh. The takeaway here is vital. Your study map has to cover the entire cultural landscape of India. Seriously, make a list of states and their most famous folk dances and festivals. It's a high-yield area, for sure. And now for a little shift into basic economics. This tests whether you get the fundamental structure of an economy. Which of the options falls under the primary sector? So the primary sector is all about extracting raw materials, things like farming, mining, and fishing. The secondary sector is manufacturing, and the tertiary is services. So the correct answer here is farming, and it's a great example of how the exam tests your understanding of the entire economic structure, not just a few isolated terms. So we've looked at history, science, and GK. Now let's put it all together. This final section is your action plan, the strategic blueprint based on everything we've just analyzed. So what have we learned? The exam isn't random at all. It systematically tests your knowledge across all of Indian history, your grasp of foundational science concepts, how familiar you are with India's rich culture, and your understanding of core economic principles. This isn't just a list of topics, it's a map of the examiner's priorities. This is your blueprint for success. We've decoded the patterns and we've drawn the map. Now, the most important question is the one right in front of you. Based on what we've seen, what is the one area you will focus on starting today? Answering that question is your first step toward absolutely mastering this exam. Best of luck.